how should the Democratic Party proceed? Should we be making inroads with the moderates, quote unquote, or with the further left? Is having a Nazi tattoo the best base for winning a Democratic primary? Lots of questions to ask regarding the Democrats as they are currently constituted. How shall we open things up? Why don't we go in order from, well, we don't actually have an established, at least as far as I can tell. Dylan, why don't you tell us your thoughts about the way the midterms are shaping up and the way the Democrats should be going about these upcoming elections?
Sure, I'm sure we're gonna get into specifics of like Platinum Mania and everything else after this. I'll just stick to broad strokes. I think historically speaking, the tidal waves, like the trends, seem to be positive. Democrats, while the DNC itself doesn't have a lot of money on hand, which is getting a lot of attention, the campaigns that the DNC is promoting do have quite a lot of money on hand. Tellerico did not have to fight a brutal primary. Tellerico did quite well, and then as John Cornyn and Ken Paxton had to go off on their, you know, match against each other, off in a second round, you know, going off. Donald Trump did not wait until you know, the right moment to jump in. He waited until the very end to jump in. And Donald Trump's poor decision making and choosing a candidate there might put Texas more realistically on the map. When you talk about the situation in Iowa, when it comes to the election there, where Democrats are now having a better shot of performing decent there, that's positive for Democrats. Ohio, Sherrod Brown is having better numbers than I expected, which I think speaks to, again, the general trends, the general shifting. If you look at the polling that the president has himself, it's very negative. If you look at the polling that Republican leadership has right now, it's very negative. The only thing that's more negative is Democratic polling, which doesn't speak to great things, but I think that says one thing, is that Democrats hate themselves. I mean, they're like a teenage girl looking in the mirror. They have a million like things to reflect upon themselves negatively, looking for each error, and they see it and they register it in a way that is both good, but also very discouraging. And on the Republican side, there's a lot less of that. There's a less, I don't know. I think maybe they're more of a teenage boy. I don't know which side of it. I'm just very unwoke what I just said. But either way,
It's an interesting metaphor. I appreciate it.
very interesting metaphor. I was raised by my grandfather who castrated pigs on a farm. My terminology and tautology is a little out of dated. But at the end of the day, Democrats, I think, are more self-loathing. And I think that's where a lot of that polling comes from, where if you poll Democrats, they also don't like Democrats. If you poll Republicans, that's different when you ask pollsters. So some of the polling comes to that. But I also think that you cannot like both parties and decide differently, like I'm going to vote for this party or that party going into election. There are a lot of people who don't participate in elections, but those who do, a certain percentage of them are strategic. And I think that those strategic voters, whether you're talking about the suburban community, whether you're talking about the communities that went for Trump big in the last election, they tend to be shifting towards Democrat. Bigly. They tend to be shifting towards Democrats in this election. The historical trend seems to be that when a president takes office, the first midterm election, they tend to lose that office. And I don't think this is going to be outside of that general trend. The question for me isn't necessarily whether or not Democrats take back the House. I think they'll take back the House even with the redistricting, because I think they perform well enough. The question is whether they take the Senate. And that requires not only a good wave, but also good candidates. And then we can talk about Senator Totenkopf and you know, all the other fantastic options we're putting forward this campaign season. But I think right now, generally speaking, I'm actually quite encouraged by Democrats' odds. And I'm also encouraged by the amount of splitting Trump has in the Republican Party, despite the fact that like 18 votes from Republicans on a piece of legislation, they didn't even want to come forward for a vote. That does speak about what Democrats could do if they took back the House and Senate legislatively, if they could force it, if they could say, hold a Republican priority hostage, or to make that more politically sensitive, do a funzie, I don't know, whatever you want to call it to make it sound more diplomatic. But I think that I feel quite bullish right now.
Excellent. Well, that's a great way to feel. Let's keep going in reverse order that we did the first segment. And Kalinda, what are your thoughts on the situation? Are you as bullish as Dylan?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, the redistricting does have me worried, but I feel like at this point, Donald Trump is just that Iran war thing is that became, I mean, from the start, I think basically like maybe about a week into it, maybe not even that, became pretty obvious that it was a huge shit show. It was not going to be a quick in and out thing like he thought that it was. He doesn't, I don't know. He vastly overestimated that. And if that is still going like by September, then that's not going to help him. It's already been really bad, and I don't even know like about the gas prices. I feel like Trump at this point feels to me like Bush, like Bush 2 did towards the end of his term, where at the end of that election, you just kind of knew that it was inevitable that whoever ran for president in 2008 was going to beat him. It didn't matter who it was, like. And it was just so easy for Obama to sail in there and win. And in some ways, Biden winning because of COVID was kind of like that too. But I mean, yeah, as far as the Senate stuff goes, I mean, like, I'm hopeful, although there are some things that I am worried about. I really hope that El Sayed doesn't win in Michigan, because I'm not sure that he is the strongest candidate to put up against the Republican. Seems like the polling indicates that he's probably the weakest of the three candidates. I like McMurrow, but unfortunately, I don't know that she's going to win, which kind of sucks because Haley Stevens is really boring. But I mean, maybe she's, at least according to the polls, seems like she's got the best chance. Yeah, I have thoughts about Plattner too, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But I don't know. Texas actually, it would be really cool. I hope that Digital Ground Game puts lots of resources in to canvassing for Tallarico. Even though he's like a little bit more populist maybe than I would like, he seems to have a really good chance at winning. Maybe at winning there, and the way in which he markets himself as, like a Christian, and the fact that he actually seems like he's a real Christian, not like Donald Trump, who is basically a fake Christian. I think that would probably help him quite a bit with Texas voters, and he's done a really good job of deflecting the weird attacks, the culture war crap, which is basically all the Republicans have. So, yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful about it. There are lots of other things to talk about too.
Brilliant. Well, going on down the line with Sophie, if you could, please, what are your thoughts on the way the Democrats are shaping up with the midterms and the future beyond that?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kalinda, especially, and Dylan as well. There's a lot of room on the table for us to make some really strong plays in places that we otherwise might not have if Trump weren't as bad as he were. So that is heartening. It's funny because you mentioned Tallarico. And our tweet of the week was Stephen Miller called him trans. And the Democratic Party responded, "Shut the fuck up, you ugly troll," or something like that.
That was brilliant. So good.
It was so good. And so, yeah, I love that, I feel like we're taking control of our messaging a lot better this go around. It's not great. It's not where we need to be, but I like that we're not as reactionary to the right-wing media bulldozing machine as we had been going into 2024. So, that is really heartening. I kind of want to go back to your original question, though, of like, do we try to engage with the moderates, or do we try to bring in the super ultra left or the tankies or whatever the case is? I got to say, like, I really hope that if we walk away with anything from this conversation, it is that there's really no saving those people, the super ultra left, single issue voter kind of folks who didn't even turn out to vote for Kamala Harris, but still somehow don't see how they're complicit in Trump being in office right now. I think those people are so diametrically opposed to democracy that there's really we shouldn't even really put the effort into trying to appease them or kowtow to them or yes, it's a genocide. Okay, sure. It's not going to do anything to really bring them over to our side. I was telling somebody the other day, it's kind of like if you look at like Hassan and Destiny, for instance, you might think they're like, back in the day, we used to be like Michael Jackson and Prince, like who would win between Michael Jackson and Prince? And it's kind of like that, like who would win if you put, if you look at like Hassan versus Destiny. But to me, it's like at least Michael Jackson and Prince were on parallel tracks trying to advance, the cause of good pop music, but it's perpendicular when it comes to the super ultra lefties like Hassan. They're on a perpendicular track. Everything they're doing is literally to oppose, moving forward or moving the Democratic Party ahead. So I think that once we start to kind of excise, not them, but just our attempts to try to be malleable to bring them into the tent, I think we'll do so much better moving forward. Hi, Kitty. So like that's the one thing I hope we take away is that, in sales and in marketing, it's all about keeping the customers that you already have. So I think it's more about doing the canvassing, doing the work, getting people out to vote, as opposed to, trying to engage a group of folks who aren't in any way interested in trying to help us take back this government. So, yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Well, someone in my chat said she doesn't even live here. Like in
I vote. I'm from North Carolina.
Yeah, I know. You're doing more work than 50 normal non-American voters combined anyway. So.
Oh, thanks, SoyPill.
Sophie, I was going to follow up and ask, aren't you yourself fairly progressive, somewhat left? How do you feel about the fact that your strategies sort of pushes a little bit of your ideology out of the mainstream or the... Because I'm in the same position where, I believe in a fairly far left, economic and social message. But at the same time, the people that are advocating for a lot of my views are doing it so poorly and advocating for so many other bad ideas that I feel a little bit politically homeless, where I'm almost advocating against my own beliefs and system and politics in order to prevent a much worse political force from taking hold. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like you have to sort of code switch even a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I have felt that way. I think that what maybe has moved me away from that kind of doomerism in a way is just seeing what happens when you disengage, or when you say, they're both, it's the lesser of two evils and all that, and you kind of fall into that trap. Like, it's hard for us to kind of see that even that whataboutism or false comparison between the left and the right is also part of the right-wing agenda to make us feel disenfranchised and make us stay home. And so that's one of the things where when you see it play out, when you see that people stayed home and then somehow Trump is in office again after we saw what happened the first time around, it just lets you know, like, there's no choice this time. You can't sit home. You can't act like your inaction is going to actually help the causes that you profess to give a shit about. You care so much about Israel, Palestine, and yet, who is doing more to harm that cause now than the person who might have gotten into office if you got off your ass. And so I think that's one of the things that's helping me. I had a really interesting conversation with a friend because I was really, it's Pride Month. So I was like, oh, we should really celebrate, our trans brothers and sisters. And we should really make a whole effort to really be like, you know what? Trump doesn't like trans people. He's trying to use every time he gets up, on a stage, he has to mention something about trans and taking away trans rights. And so we need to, anything he hates, we need to go hard and show we love it. And my friend was kind of like, hey, listen, yes. And you also kind of want to look at the fact that, it's not as much of a shoo-in as we like to think it is. You know, I think we were at a point where we're like, oh, there's no way Hillary could lose. Oh, there's no way Kamala could lose. So I think it's a little like that right now, where it's like Trump's so bad, the Iran war, you know, all this stuff that he said he was going to do and he didn't do, and affordability, all this. There's no way we could lose, but to put up one of those kind of, I guess, niche or you know, pigeonholing kind of identity politics kind of an issue would certainly make it a little bit more difficult to make it as much of a shoe-in as it could be if we just kind of attack the larger issues. You know, kind of address the populism of it all. And so I thought that was really interesting, because he was like, listen, if we can get in office, let's just win the fucking midterms. Then we can do what we can to try to, you know, put some additional trans rights in some kind of a pork bill or in some kind of spending bill. You know, or there's just so much more we can do if we get the power back to actually help, you know, the communities that we do care so much about.
And demonstrate that we can do something with it, and then earn that right to say, hey, this is an issue that our people care about. And,
exactly.
And when people's stomachs are full and their jobs are going well and they're getting paid more, then they'll say, hey, yeah, sure, freedom for other people too.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that he kind of grounded me in that. And so, you know, it just, again, makes me want to fight even harder just to get people out to the polls. Let's get it going. You know, that's really where it starts.
Excellent. SoyPill, if you could, say your thoughts on the Democratic Party, where they currently stand and where they might be ending up by the time we get to the midterms. What do you think is the...
And then we'll open it up for open discussion.
Yeah, short term, I mean, we're killing it. Like, basically, we have to stand around to do basically nothing, and Trump is shooting himself in the foot constantly. And so it's hard to look at what's happening now and credit it to, like, we should be good, guys. We did it, you know. All right, like, we're going to win. We're winning all these elections, because that's awesome, and we're doing good work, and there's mostly good messaging. But what I'm afraid of is that what's being fought for, especially in the center-left area of the Democratic Party, is like return to normal, and then let's start making things better. And that's good. That's what I want, because things are so bad under Trump right now that just literally just stopping that and doing nothing else would just be a huge improvement. But when you look at that Democrat polling that Dylan's talking about, where we're polling worse, the party itself is polling worse than Republicans. Like, why the fuck is the perception of Democrats so bad? It's because I don't think there is this focus on the long-term, more existential issues, and I don't think there's enough lip service being paid to things like climate change, which people are constantly dooming about, like job complete, like eradication, white-collar job eradication from AI, like these things that are going to be harming everyone. You know, like it's like affordability, gas prices, all these things that are going to, you know, disseminate out into these larger bodies of demographics. It's like, oh, this is the issue that no one's addressing, and I feel disaffected. And so we can win based on pendulum swing from how bad Trump is, but if we don't capitalize on those things long term, it's going to swing back again. All you need is the Democrats to get back in power in the midterms and, you know, kind of meander, twiddle their thumbs and be like, okay guys, look, we're stepping closer to the left here, and then bam, a big fucking crisis hits, and we've got like 20% unemployment or some fucking thing, like something crazy, and then some populist on the right's going to be like, it's because the Democrats did it, Trump too, or whatever, and that's it. Now it swings back and we got even worse fascism. And so I think that we're doing good and we're not doing nearly enough. There needs to be more, like, you know, Democrats, like long-term strategy. And it's hard because I don't know if doing that would sabotage the midterms for us. So maybe this is a thing where it's like, okay, get in office, win the midterms, and then we can figure that out and start talking about those long-term issues. But you look at, you know, people like to shit on populists, but populists are, I think, good at this. Like Bernie Sanders is like, look, climate change is an existential threat. Healthcare is a human right. We need to give people these things. And Democrats are on board with that now in a lot of ways. I don't think they're hammering it in enough that I feel like I'm being heard when I freak out about this stuff. And you know, it's good that we have these populists or these like further left people in the party who are pushing us more towards that. I think we wouldn't talk about healthcare the way we talk about it today if not for Bernie in 2016. And I want more of those people in the Democratic Party. It's hard because, you know, Sophie shits on Hassan, and I rightfully will shit on Hassan for the same things probably, which is like he's a total fucking, you know, fuck Democrats whenever it matters, like in the general election. But if that person's going to throw a bunch of like, you know, weight behind progressives like Bernie Sanders, who I agree with, who's going to push the party left, I'm like, fucking yeah, let's take all your money and time and audience and shove it into those people who might put us closer to dealing with the issues that I think are more prevalent, that are going to affect more people, that are beyond stop Trump and get us back to normal. But like, hey, where are we in 10 years? Where we have a country that's a little more, you know, socialized and a little more like uplifting of the people that really need help in the same way Europe might do it. So yeah, I think we're doing good. We're doing about 40% of what I think we need to be doing right now.
Excellent.
Yeah, we need to be grabbing that tug of war rope and just pulling it back hand over fist while the Republicans are weak, and we need to determine what you know, the modern democratic identity looks like. It does feel to me that we are still scrambling for that identity and what it's going to be, what that cohesive, especially national identity looks like.
Yeah, and actually, I did want to say, because you just reminded me, Sophie's point about like the guy calling, or the I think it was Polina from the DNC called Stephen Miller like an ugly fuck or whatever, and it's like, why did that do so well? Like, why is everyone capitalizing off like that energy? And for years and years and years, we hear the correct thing from resist libs all the way to everyone now saying, hey, this guy's a fucking fascist. He's trying to take away your healthcare. He's trying to deport all of these like people who are here and not hurting anyone, and also legal immigrants, and he's fucking with your rights. And you're treating it like this, like, you know, like the Chuck Schumer thing, like, oh, like we got to work with them. It's like, no, like every day your Democratic politicians should be like, these people are fucking evil and want to destroy you, because that's what they're doing at this point. It is just like the worst thing ever. It's like the worst cases. They're pushing for fascism. And so when you say Trump is Hitler, and then you're not treating him like Hitler, people are like, well, hold on, like, is it that bad? And there's these mixed messages and there's this discohesion. But like, the truth is, we're getting fucked right now. And it can't just be like, oh, that bad guy in office. It's like, this is fucking 5-alarm fire. Let's fight back. So when people treat it like that, when Gavin Newsom comes out and says like, fuck you, I'm redistricting my whole state to steal your fucking votes, because even though I tried to get rid of gerrymandering, you wouldn't do it. You're goddamn right, I'm going to steal your fucking seats. Fuck you. You don't get any power. That's what we need to be doing right now. Everyone needs to be doing that, which was like the whole point of the video I released yesterday. It's like, fuck woke one. We're woke two now. We're dark woke. So
yeah, when they go high, we go to hell now. Yeah,
sure. I'm curious.
Can I respond?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, jump in. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't know, SoyPill, you and I probably just fundamentally don't agree anyway. Like, if you want to try pushing the party left, that's fine, I guess. But like, Hassan is only okay with those candidates up until they win the primary, and a lot of the candidates that he endorses are candidates that are like in fucking deep blue places or what have you, which is kind of stupid. And then like and then he's completely useless once it comes to the general election. Like if Plattner were to lose, and obviously I know Plattner's not going to lose, but if he were to lose and it was a different candidate, Hassan would not be out there cheerleading that candidate, because he only cares about candidates that pass his narrow purity test, because he's obsessed with Gaza. And that's all that he cares about right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, though. But again, I've had this debate like a million times, which is like, all right, but if he is going to promote a guy who's going to win and help that Democrat, just because it's the only one he will, and he's a hypocrite and he won't help us when it matters, he won't vote blue no matter who, whatever, like I'll still take the help for the person I still want to win, right? Like, why not? Don't give him anything. Don't fucking pay money to his platform. Don't say, okay, here's your like speaking event, because fuck you. You're going to like stab us in the back when it matters in the general election. But you know, when it's like, all right, this is beneficial, I'll do the Operation Barbarossa and let the Soviets go and fuck up Berlin, well, so I don't have to have as many Americans die. Like, yeah, why not? And then we can do the Cold War later. So
the only other issue there, though, is that like I worry, and maybe we'll find this out. This is why I said partially I really hope that El Sayed doesn't win, because Hassan is the perfect vector with which to attack him with, because this guy campaigned with him, and Fox News loves shitting on Hassan, and Hassan has so much bad baggage. And it is right now, most Americans don't know.
80% of people don't know who he is. Like, he's going to be attacked for being a Muslim. He's going to be attacked for the doctor stuff. He's going to be attacked for
I know that they don't know who he is, but they're you know what? No, Americans didn't know who like people that were used to attack Obama were either. And like, yeah, that didn't like work in terms of him losing, but it did help turn a lot of people against Obama. because Republicans' brains were broken when Obama like won the presidency, and then you had the Tea Party and all that other insane shit. But like I don't know. I don't, you know that they love to do this guilt by association shit, right? It doesn't matter if nobody knows who Hassan is. All they have to do is just see all the crazy shit that he has said about America, about how much he loves China, about all of this stuff. That's kind of like, listen, obviously El Sayed is up to, like, it's fine for him to do that. And to some extent, like, sure, I guess it's fine to like work with Hassan. Although I don't know that it's a good idea. I guess I don't think mainstream Dems or people like Alyssa Slotkin should really be like, or Mallory McMorrow should be bothering going on these podcasts that are obviously hostile. Like fucking, like when Slotkin went on Breaking Points and the entire interview was just her getting purity tested about Gaza for however long that lasted. You know, like that kind of stuff is just real dumb. And I don't really think that it is at all useful or helpful, really. Like if candidates,
Matt Bernstein.
Well, that's what, again, that's what I said. Like if you think this is only going to hurt you by going on like a left-wing podcast and they're just going to attack you before like you even are up against a Republican, or if you are, it's like, why aren't you attacking the Republican with this much energy? Yeah, okay. Don't give them that. Don't give them the time of day. Don't go to their interviews. Don't pay them that lip service. Just be like, okay, like, thanks if you want to endorse. Thanks if you want to canvass for me. And if you don't, go fuck yourself, right? Like, I'm fine with that. But the idea that, like, all right, we need to excise, like, we say, hey, don't canvass for Graham Plattner, even though it's going to be Graham Plattner versus Collins, because we don't like your politics, or you're going to backstab if it was Mills in the general. But okay, but it's not Mills, and he is helping. So why would I not take the help when I can get it? Like, that, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Dylan,
Yeah,
I'd like to.
sound like he's. Oh yeah.
Dylan, I wanted to bring you in. Are you concerned about El Sayed and how much he's leaned on Hassan? Are you concerned about Hassan and leaning on the left too hard in general? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think Al Sayed's general policy agenda is something that I align myself with when it comes to like his housing program and stuff like that. I'm sure I could find things about his policy agenda that I disagree with, but I came
Ukraine.
into we're actively engaged in discussions, and I can't say much. But like when it comes to this type of work, like I want to see candidates with energy. I want to see candidates when they run into the general and you're like, they represent something, right? Now that doesn't need to be something that I align with, right? Like I imagine if Stevens was the nominee, a lot of what she would ultimately align herself with is not what invigorates me in my like what gets me to canvas, what gets me out there. But I'm also not the person running in her district. I'm also not somebody that's from her community. And so when I listen to Saeed talk about housing inequity, when I listen to Saeed talk about these things, it does not surprise me that he is the person who is ahead in this. He's also very willing to take the hardline view that is now the majority of the Democratic base's view on what's going on in Gaza, the bombing of Gaza, the destruction of Gaza. And because he's willing to take that position so openly, so strongly, while the other candidates look like they're doing some sort of balancing act, it allows him to come off as somebody who stands 10 toes down. It allows him to come off as somebody who stands for something, and it allows him to show himself as, hey, we're somebody who's actually offering a bolder vision. And I'm not saying McMorrow isn't offering anything. I'm not saying Stevens aren't offering anything, but that's not the read somebody gets if you're in the primary watching it from the sidelines, right? If you're in the district and you're saying, who could allocate the most money to fund this local bridge construction project, right? I don't hear a lot about that specifically from the Saeed campaign. Maybe in the Stevens campaign, those types of discussions would be more plentiful. Maybe the type of people that are aligned to them are more, attuned to that. But that's not what seems to win primaries right now. It certainly isn't the case in the Republican primary. Maybe it is different in the Democratic primary. It's a different party. But I think that these general trends for what motivates primary victories is a sign of the times, more of a sign of even the Republican Party.
So you think it's more important that we just have Democrats that stand on business more than
I think it's important that we have a
lean?
message. I think it's important that we offer a future, and I think it's important that whoever wins, that they be able to do that cognizantly, and they be able to defend it. And that's going to be my question about Saeed. Is he going to be able to defend that any general running against people who have radically different beliefs than what he has. When you talk about Stevens and McMorrow, you're speaking to a Democratic voter base. Then you got to go speak to independents, right? And this is the United States. There are certain voters that will not care about who he is, and there's other voters that will care. In Iowa, in the Democratic primary, you had people finding out Pete Buttigieg was a homosexual, and that was not too many primaries ago, and being like, wait, what? I had no clue. I'm pulling out. Him being Saeed running in a general election is going to be an inherent handicap. It is also a handicap that the other two people, this is the United States, okay? I'm just being free. I grew up with people who live in countrysides, right? There being two women, like every single side of this, like people talk about James Telrico so favorably, not only because he's a good candidate, but because he's a picture perfect candidate for what you would want to run in Lily White, Texas. And so I want candidates that no matter what structural or biases like a voter might be going into the voting booth with are going to carry so much energy in such a time of poor leadership that they're going to blow it out of the water. If Saeed can do that, then I'll back him 100%. I also have, of course, red lines on the issue of Ukraine and other stuff that needs to show that you'd be worth having in the Senate in the first place. But, at the end of the day, like, I think that Saeed has energy. And I think McMorrow, Stevens being able to take the primary back, which is currently seems to be Abdul's to lose, would be a good sign of that.
Sophie, do you have any thoughts on this particular election when it comes to Saeed versus his opponents and whether he's leaning too hard on Hassan for what might come around to be a particularly trying general election?
Oh, by the way, I didn't talk about Hassan at all because who gives a fuck? Sorry, continue.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's a good way to sum it up. I mean, I guess that's the thing.
I wish we didn't have to.
Yeah, but really, people don't know about him a lot.
The online media environment, but yeah.
Yeah, and I do feel like that is something that Syed or anybody who is using Hassan as a vehicle, needs to keep in mind that if anything, the only real mainstream knowledge of him is going to come from Fox News lifting him up as this, Cuban communist, only cares about Hamas, brings terrorists on his stream kind of dude.
America deserved 9/11, all the worst hits.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just feel like that's one of those things where, if you want to look back at like when Obama was running, and as soon as they tried to say, oh, your minister is very anti-America, your minister is, saying that black people are so mistreated and F white people and this and that. And he immediately was like, let me distance myself. Let's go ahead and he fucking won. So I think there is merit to looking at, the company you keep. And I feel like that's something that, he should probably just keep in mind. Like it's not a good look. And also like with what you're saying, SoyPill, about like, it's worth keeping your enemies close if they're helping you advance your cause. Like it reminds me of how even today you're hearing people say like, oh, well, Taylor Lorenz was right when it came to this issue or whatever, and it's like, no, but if she didn't weigh in at all, this thing would still be true. Like it would still be true that there is racism implicit in how we look at cell phone usage and whatnot in schools or whatever the case is. So I feel like there's kind of the same kind of overlap here. Like, sure, just because Hassan, might be right or it might be like helpful in this one tiny little instance, if you took him out of the equation altogether, kind of like Dylan said, like if fuck him, if he's a non-issue, if you took him out, would he really impact the decision either way? And I kind of feel like if you look at the pros and cons of Hassan, the cons stack up too much for me to feel like he's valuable even for the people who we want to help or that he is backing or that he is supporting. So I just don't see
Sophie, I think that's a good point that you're kind of like synthesizing between you and Dylan, which is like Hassan isn't as big of a draw. Like when people argue like, should we do this? Shouldn't we do this? Should we let him in? Like ultimately what matters more is what Dylan is saying is how much energy are they driving? Can they overcome the detriment or like not really make it so the nudge up matters all that much? If you can run as a mayor of New York with the endorsement of a guy who said America deserved 9/11 and that doesn't make you lose, then like you're a fucking good candidate who has good ideas that people are looking towards. Now, whether or not Hassan like boosted Mamdani or made Mamdani like lose 4 jillion votes, it's hard to say. You can't really track these things, but like people aren't coming out of exit polls and being like, hey, you know what? I was going to vote for him and I liked his policies, but he shook hands with that guy who said that awful thing about 9/11. It's like, no, they're coming out and they're like, this guy's going to make housing better. This guy's going to do the grocery store thing. This guy's going to reduce costs. I like that guy.
On this, Soy?
Yeah.
If, let's say it was different. Let's say instead of it being Hassan and Mamdani had like one public interaction that we could see that was actually public facing and meant to seem like it had campaign purposes during the primary, before the general, you know, when he, you know, the idea is you run to your center, but it's also a New York City election, so it's different. But let's say he didn't do that, and let's say he instead was like, Mamdani, we're going to do speaking events, and you know how Trump does rallies, we'll have Hassan come out before Mamdani comes out, and he, you know, Hassan comes out and he does the speeches. In a scenario
like it was like he was tied at the hip to the campaign. You mean?
I wouldn't say like necessarily tied to the hip, but he was part of the speaking tour. He's like the build-up act almost. In a scenario like that, I think he becomes a weight, especially in somewhere like New York, where he's gonna be like, why is the guy who said America deserved 9/11
also
seemingly like having so much?
If he's like the vice president to the presidential campaign, that becomes a lot different. Where it's like, this isn't a referendum on the policies of this guy. Like, you're now the person with this candidate, and your policies are going to come into question. I agree with that.
Ultimately,
Sure.
I think like I just want to finish this thought quickly. I think one interaction ultimately in and of itself is not usually enough to sink anyone. It wasn't enough about Luis Farrakhan and, you know, Obama, Nick Fuentes and Donald Trump. I don't think it will be Hassan and Abdul. Of course, these are all very different types of figures, but whatever stink someone might have, depending on your perspective, like candidates have been touched by it once. And as long as you let it touch you once or hit you on the back just a few times and you don't keep them at the hip, you don't make them your own personal like Rudy Giuliani, it seems to be fine. You can take their supporters and move on. Donald Trump's first interview, who was it with? His major interview of
Alex Jones?
It was with Alex Jones. He took his audience, kept going, became president.
Kalinda, you had a point that you wanted to make. What were you going to say?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So, I mean, obviously, New York is a deeply blue place. Also, Mamdani, I mean, maybe it might have been because of Cuomo, but Mamdani didn't even like win as overwhelmingly as maybe one might have expected him to. But I don't think that has anything to do with Hassan. I would like to also remind everyone that on the debate stage, when presented with the quotes that Hassan said about 9/11, Mamdani like basically disavowed him and he condemned that sentiment. And then when Hassan tried to go to Mamdani's New York victory party and get into the VIP section, he was told, you're not on the list, go away. And so he had to go hang out downstairs with all the plebs. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, Hassan claims now that he has Mamdani on speed dial and shit, but I haven't seen Mamdani interact with or say anything about him. So I don't know that Mamdani is really necessarily a great example. I think it's different because El Sayed is not only doing like events with Hassan, but then he also went on I think Matt Bernstein's show to do an interview with Hassan or with El Sayed. Or he went on Matt Bernstein's show, and all they did was spend the entire time just talking about how great Hassan was and how people need to stop attacking him. I don't even.
What will you say if he wins the primary, though? Like, are you going to say that all that stuff didn't matter, or that it helped, or like what's going to be your view? Like,
I don't know if that's going to matter for the primary. My worry is that the Republicans are going to use it to attack El Sayed, and that it will make it harder for him to win the election.
Maybe,
because
but Republicans are going to do whatever they can regardless, and I don't know if that's going to be the like kill shot to like make this guy.
I don't know if it'll be the kill shot, but I'm worried in general about El Sayed. It's not even necessarily just about Hassan, just because he seems to be the one who does the worst in the polling up against the Republican. So I don't know, like that's a bit concerning to me. Because Michigan is not like a deep blue place, and there's quite a bit of worries there because like whoever wins that primary is going to need to appeal to a bunch of different people, and there are certain groups that El Sayed might turn off. I do agree with Dylan though, like yes, it would be nice to get more, like center left Democrats who can be more firebrandy and who can sell a message, in the same way that Obama did, whilst also being unapologetically liberal instead of being like super far left or progressive or like, I mean, or even they can be progressive. I don't care about that, but like being basically democratic socialists and whatnot. Because I don't think that is necessarily going to be a super popular thing. I don't know if Plattner has called himself a democratic socialist or not, but yeah, although that's a whole other thing. Graham Plattner.
Yeah, we'll get into Plattner in a minute, but Sophie, did you want to jump in there on that? It seemed like you had something to say.
Curious about how you would answer that question, SoyPill. Like if he did win, then would you credit that to being largely in part due to Hassan?
Not even largely. It'd be an incredibly small part. All I would say is I think that this guy did not probably hurt that much compared to what people might be worried about. I think he's got a huge audience of people. Fair chunk of those people are going to live in whatever district they need to vote for, and I would rather him be using that platform to promote the people that I think are good and to beat Republicans. And I don't think it's more of a liability. I mean, we'll see if it turns out like every single candidate in a general that wins, goes to the primary and wins, is going to just be hyper attacked by Republicans, and they all lose based on that metric, which I think you could track. You could see like exit polling, like why didn't you vote for this person? I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's marginal. It's a guy with a big audience. That audience is full of younger people that usually don't vote. I want those people to vote for Democrats versus Republicans. And if it's his Democrats, which he's very choosy with, fuck him. But if it is his Democrats in the general and he gets them to vote for them, awesome. I think that's probably a good thing. But it's not going to be like, whoa, did he lose because of this? Like, did Kamala lose because Hassan didn't fucking endorse her? No, but fuck him for not doing it. Like he should. And I want those people to vote. So,
well, it's just, I honestly thought you would say more so that you would feel that he won despite it, because you were saying that it's almost like Hassan is like a pressure test or like a purity test in his own right. Like he's the one who's saying, or it just sounded like you said that for Mamdani to have won because it's like,
him. In New York, if you're trying to like, you're doing an anti 9/11 sort of like campaign, right? Like that's going to probably alienate a lot of people. But also, Mamdani's a Muslim. I don't know if you guys remember how fucked it was for Muslims in New York in 2001. New York. But like the fact that like a Muslim can win mayor is amazing. How far we've come. I think that would be like the biggest fucking stabbing point for any attack. Like, Republicans tried it. They're like, does everyone forget 9/11? We're gonna elect a Muslim. It's like he fucking did it. Like Muslims, like as a whole, like it's in one of the fucking pillars to blow up buildings in New York. It's fucking ridiculous. So yeah, like did it really?
Having somebody backing him who said that he would,
I think that would be more of a stabbing point. But I think like just being Muslim is bigger.
I think Mamdani
extrapolate that out to Syed or anybody else that Hassan is backing. Like I think that's important to know. Then, like that if Hassan is backing someone, and that is the test that this person was actually a really good candidate, that they won despite him, then why?
Well, that's not what I was saying. I was saying specifically that comment and specifically in New York. But I think a much greater hurting thing for Mamdani is that he is Muslim. That is going to be a big sticking point for a lot of people because of Islamophobia, right? So what I'm thinking is if I were to calculate this out, and it's very hard to, I think probably Hassan drives more people for the candidates he cares about to vote than he does hurt people by being associated with him, if I had to guess. Because I think he's got this coalition of people. They usually don't vote because they're like, oh, nothing fucking matters. We're never going to get universal health care. And then he goes out and he's like, guys, vote for this person. It's like, okay, those young people go vote. Cool. Versus like the people who try to use him to attack the Democratic candidate, if it's a Hassan person, it's like no one knows who this fucking person is. So he's mobilizing the people who all know who he is because it's in his audience. And the people who don't know who he is like, oh, he said a thing. Okay, but that's not Mamdani. Wait, who is this? Like, what do? They shook hands once? I don't know. I would guess that he's probably helping marginally more, he's hurting marginally. Ultimately, what matters more and what I want to focus on is not fucking Hassan Piker, is these candidates need to be fighters and have a resounding message that actually gets people to not give a shit about any of that stuff and to think, is this person going to be advocating for me and giving me the stuff I want? That's what I think matters.
Yeah,
I just want to make one thing, or like, I guess to make something in particular clear. I think that all of this really depends entirely on where we are talking about. New York City is like an incredibly blue place. It is deep blue. It is very liberal. You're probably going to find, it's like fucking San Francisco, where you like, that's where you're going to find like all like the wokies and like probably even like some number of socialists there or what have you. And I think that that's a little bit different than someplace like Michigan, which is a purple state. And there are a lot of different people that a candidate might have to appeal to there in order to be able to win. Like there is a population of Jewish people there, there is a population of Muslim people there, and you're gonna have to appeal to like certain groups. If you're a Democrat, you have to have like a broader coalition. And so I don't know how well Al-Sayed would necessarily be able to walk that line. Whereas yeah, like, I don't know, maybe Mamdani would have lost a few more votes if he hadn't condemned Hassan, but I don't think that he would have lost the election either way, because New York's still a deep blue place. Yeah, and I don't, a lot of Hassan's endorsed candidates also haven't won either. I mean, I'm sure you all saw that he was super mad on like I think last Tuesday when he lost, when like all the candidates that he endorsed didn't win. So yeah, it's not just about him either, by the way. Like, it's more about the general question of, should Democrats appeal more to the far left than like, I guess, the center? And obviously I think the answer is the center. Because like it seems, in fact, I'm sure everyone is familiar with that poll that I think 40% of people have negative views of the Democratic Party because they think or 40% of people think the Democratic Party is too liberal. And by that, they mean too left, because liberal is like a weird pejorative, thanks Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh. But yeah, I don't know.
I think what's interesting about that poll, Kalinda, is that yes, if you look on a general, but when you break it down to the issues, it's a lot less obvious. If it's like, what about healthcare? Like, no one is saying we need to meet in the middle on immigration, because right now what's happening is fucking insane, and we're sending ICE into cities like the Gestapo, and so that becomes a lot less clear. If you talk about healthcare, it's like, wait, hold on, no, I don't think we should be cutting all these millions of people. So like, it depends on what you mean by the center. It's definitely not the middle of what the Democrats stood for 2 years ago and the Trump now, and so I don't know like how much.
What I mean is that there was and by the way, I don't think this is true of the Democratic Party. I think the issue is that there is a perception among people that the Democratic Party is too left, or that Kamala was too woke, even though I don't think that she was. And I think that has more to do with messaging than what Democrats actually believe and what the majority of Democrats actually believe, for example. So yeah, I don't.
Right.
Yeah, like for example, I think apparatus. Yeah, like I don't think Democrats should abandon trans rights, but they don't necessarily need to say that like they're in favor of like trans women playing in competitive women's sports or whatever. Or like, yeah, it depends. They kind of got to walk the line on the culture war stuff. But yeah, I don't really think
that's kind of what the poll suggests, is like when you look specifically at the like table issues like economy and healthcare, there's no preference for moving to the center. Like it disappears completely. And
wait, hold on. What do you mean about like the healthcare thing? Like, for example, I think most people would probably prefer
the poll. What do you mean?
A public option rather than Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to outlaw private insurance, right? That's all I'm saying.
But a public option is moving left. That's not moving center.
Joe Biden campaigned on a public option, though. When I say moved, what I mean is that
propose it or anything. Yeah, like he didn't.
Yeah, I know.
For it during the that's moving left. Like moving left would be like, hey, everyone, we're doing it. Like Nick Morrow is proposing us moving left by saying we want a public option. Al-Sayed is saying we want Medicare for all. That's even further left. That's like more progressive.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's what I mean.
Neither of those are moving center.
No. When I say moving center, I don't mean that. I don't mean like, like be like more conservative or whatever. What I mean is that I don't think that the Democrats need to like, tout all this in like the democratic socialist stuff, or like the, like it has to be Medicare for all. It can't be anything else like that, or that kind of shit. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I think
Rather
a
than
public
being-
option is a good in between, because if you do look at polls, most Americans think the government should have some role in healthcare. And I think a public option is a good thing for that. Obviously, by the way, I think that if Biden had more room, he probably would have maybe brought that to the table, but he didn't, because it was really difficult for him to even get anything done as it was.
Well, okay. Well, what do you think is going center then? Is just like the difference between
What I mean is,
were 3 years ago and what the progressives are saying. Moving center is like somewhere in between that, like a healthy middle, or like has nothing to do with the right. The right is not dictating what's center here.
yes, yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is that I think that when people like Hassan and all these other far leftist people say you have to run left-wing populist socialist candidates because inside every American is a secret socialist, or is a secret socialist birdie that's just waiting to hatch, but they just didn't know it because the consent has been manufactured, and that's why they think socialism is like, that's what I mean. I mean that
gotcha.
I don't think that we should roll with the assumption that this is true, because these policies don't actually seem to be as popular as these particular people seem to think that they are. And I think that
At least from an ideological perspective, like maybe
a more liberal, like you can be
center.
solidly center left liberal, even progressive. Obviously, Joe Biden was one of the most progressive, or like even like Gavin fucking Newsom. You know, like these people hate Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is like one of the most progressive governors in the history of the United States, right? Like he did a lot of really progressive shit. But these people hate him because he's not far left enough. That's all I mean when I say, like, you have to appeal to independents, and I would rather that we appeal to them than the fucking super far left people who are super testy.
Your critique isn't about necessarily progressivism or left policies, even economic. It's more about how we message that, and we shouldn't message that in an extremist way loaded with socialism and other ideological statements. We need to take those issues, and we can have progressive solutions and maybe economic left solutions, but they need to be spoken about in a way that appeals to centrists and average.
Yeah, mostly. Like you have to, if you're going to do that. And, you know, and by the way, I do think there is something to be said about like Bernie's more economic or like left populist messaging. I don't like populism because I think it's stupid, and it like, you know, let's blame everything on the billionaires, guys. Like that is so stupidly reductionist. And unfortunately, I feel like to some degree, some people just they just are populist and they don't present good policies, or like the policies that they do present aren't great, like wealth taxes and shit. But you could, like, somebody like Bernie or like someone like that could potentially appeal to rural voters, you know, like in ways that Democrats haven't been able to. And I would like to see that tried.
When Bernie went on Fox News, he was a big hit, even on their side. Like I wondered when it happened, when he was getting good play on Fox, if the rich were shaking in their boots, as Bernie got to speak a real populist or a meaningful message rather than a populist message.
Yeah, you just don't, I don't know, like you can like kind of use populism somewhat, just don't go full crazy with it, I guess. But I don't know if that, you know, it's fine to like have that kind of messaging. I just also want real policies to be behind it, and not just, oh my God, all of our problems are caused by the billionaires, you know?
Yeah. Well, the word populism seems loaded to me from the start, where basically it means popular and dumb. Like that's kind of how it's used.
That's how I would sum it up.
Lowest common denominator. Yeah, that seems to be the way it's used, and so yeah, it's kind of baked into the way the word is used that it's negative. Kyle, you were saying something?
Well, I was going to say there are a couple candidates that we could talk about who've leaned on the more populist economic messaging, and they would be the aforementioned Graham Plattner, as well as James Tallarico of Texas. Now, why don't we go ahead and unpack some of the issues that Plattner has, and we could compare to Tallarico, who might have similar messaging, although maybe a different messaging style, but without the baggage. It would seem that as of now, the various things that have attempted to weigh Plattner down, the sexting, the Nazi tattoo, he seems to still be I haven't seen any signs that his base is turning away from him. Dylan, I wanted to get your thoughts on Plattner and his various baggage that comes with him.
Sure. I also just wanted to quickly say, anytime you see a Republican Senate candidate go on Benny Johnson's podcast as somebody who is part of the Tenet media scandal, Russian paid info op. This is somebody who's constantly saying crazy stuff. You can go to any number of right-wing commentators say wild stuff on their radio programs, on their shows all the time. You never hear, what scandal have you guys heard of? Oh, this guy went on this right-wing podcast, talked to this podcaster. It's not a scandal over there. And so I just don't know how much, like, realistically Hassan can actually drag down a candidate in this media environment, right? In New York, you know, because of the uniqueness of a statement, it would be unique. It's like having Vosh speak in Tel Aviv. Like, I imagine that, like, just the uniqueness of your previous statements are going to lead to certain negativity. But besides that, when it comes to Graham Plattner specifically, look, Graham Plattner comes off as incredibly authentic. He comes off as a working class everyman. He is a United States veteran, and he is a combat veteran. He is not a behind the wire paperwork veteran. He is somebody who has seen it. And he has come forward with, like, he was an oyster farmer. I mean, that is Maine to its core. I mean, it's as oysters matter as much to Maine as, like, crab matters to Marylanders. And so there's just, like, so many aspects about his campaign combined with the messaging against the owner class, against the elite class, against the billionaire class, that seems to communicate quite well. He's also quite young. He's 41 years old. Susan Collins is going into her mid-70s. And so there's a lot of advantages when it comes to the Plattner campaign. Now, when it comes to disadvantages, I think... somebody going and having an SS tattoo on their chest is not meta. It's not in favor of the campaign meta, I would say. Then you've got the problem with all of the sexting, which is not good. But the relative, like, standard for, like, sex scandals in American politics right now is Epstein, and your staffer lights himself on fire, right? So,
and even that won't necessarily break you.
That won't necessarily break you. I believe the man who was involved in the lighting woman on fire scandal, I believe he did ultimately lose to, wasn't it that he lost to a YouTuber, if I remember correctly? Either way, he lost. So there is, like, a standard. There is, like, a line, it seems. And
there's a line.
There seems to be a line. And lighting...
About 10 feet above hell.
Which is, like, somebody
unless you're Trump.
There seems to be a line unless you're Trump.
Oh, my God.
And so I do think that there is a limit. And recent polling indicates that Graham Plattner's polling data has gone down. The last poll I saw had him within 2 points of Susan Collins. Which at this point, so far out from the general election, you could look at that from a few angles. Number one, he's lost a lot of the lead that he needs to maintain. Or number two, you could look at it like, well, he's taken the worst of it and he's still not too underwater. So yippee. But historically, when it comes to Susan Collins in the polls, they have underestimated her election day performance. And so if we really want to do well in Maine, you might actually have to have a few points on Susan Collins, not just, tie with Susan Collins, not just, we're ahead a point or two with Susan Collins. I mean, she's going off of, quite a long list of, like, name recognition. I mean, everybody in the district knows her, and they don't necessarily just associate her with many of the things many the people in Maine's district are starting to associate with Graham Plattner. The question is, can Graham Plattner associate himself more with change, associate himself more with challenging what's happening in Washington, can associate himself more as a redemption story more than, like, the demons that he's carrying with himself right now? And that I do not know. What I do know is that his base loves him. They seem energized. Every time these scandals hit him, he fundraises like crazy off of it. He's raising more money off of these scandals than Susan Collins is. that seems to be the current state of affairs. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that Plattner's base is cultish, but they really like him. And I think they're going to stick with him. And I think that might actually take him through to Election Day, despite the fact that Susan Collins, out of all of the people in the Senate coalition, outside of maybe Lisa Murkowski, is the least disagreeable Republican. That's not saying a lot, but is one of the least disagreeable Republicans. At the end of the day, it's Maine, and she's the one who could save the Senate majority for Republicans. And those two facts, when you speak to Plattner supporters, are unavoidable. So I think he's going to end up being the nominee. It's just whether or not once the primary's locked and we're solidly in the general, whether we got any more demons that are going to come out. I don't know what it's going to be next for Platter. We find out that he also got a Maoist tattoo. We find out he's got all four sides of the political spectrum. I don't know, but we'll wait.
Well,
I'll wait for the
Dylan. Do you think he did a good job synthesizing the Republican and the Democrat position, where rape is about power and he's acknowledging rape culture, but he would also rape a home intruder? I think what a Republican might do. Do you think that's a good way to bring in independence?
I'm sorry. Is this a real thing he said?
Yes,
you guys not know
apparently.
About this?
No. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about rapes about power, which is true. So he's he's got the woke.
Soy. You report Graham Plattner would rape a robber or something. You put that in the title of a article. Nobody's gonna read that and say, "Well, now you're disqualified," because nobody's gonna. They're just gonna read that and they're gonna be like, "That's something I know. I'm gonna remember Graham Plattner's name now. He's the guy who would rape a robber." And so whether that hurts him or helps him, I do not know. Soy.
Oh
it might fit into the no advertising is bad advertising.
Yeah, no news
I don't
is
know.
bad news.
I don't know how many people here agree or disagree with this. I don't know if there's anyone who actually thinks that Plattner is a Nazi or whatever. Actually, Dylan, you probably can attest to this because I know that you've probably interacted or seen soldiers like this or what have you. But my understanding is, at least, or things that I've been told to by people who are or were in the military in my audience, is that I don't think that Graham Plattner is a Nazi. I think that he was a edgy Marine, because Marines are very edgy, stupid kids who got drunk one night with all his buddies while they were in Croatia, and he went and got a Totenkopf tattooed on his chest. I think
Croatia
he knew what it was.
would be the place to do that, by the way, in Europe.
Yes, it would. I think he knew what it was. There's no way that he didn't. In fact, I believe that he even talks about this. This is sort of a military culture thing, particularly in the Marines. My friend who is in the military showed me some pictures of people in the Marine sniper squad posing with the SS flag, and they're literally just doing it because they're fucking edgy, and they're Nazis, they're not Nazis. They're just being super edgelords about it. It's kind of this weird ironic thing that they do. I assume that the same thing probably also happens in Ukraine, where some people will wear edgy shit on their edgy Nazi patches or whatever, not because they actually are Nazis, or things that are kind of like that. I think I've heard about that from some of the Ukrainians in my chat. I don't know if you've ever encountered that, Dylan, but I feel like it's the fact that he lied about it. And in some ways, I feel like he could have maybe just tried to, trying to explain that would have been too much. I don't know. It seems like there are people who are brain broken on this. Some people who actually just think that he's a Nazi because he got the Totenkopf tattoo. But yeah, I don't know why he didn't think to remove that, or why he didn't think anybody would that wasn't going to come out. There's shit in his Reddit posts. I mean, hopefully he'll win, I guess, but goddamn, it would not surprise me if more scandals come out. It just seems like one thing on top of the other with this guy. And apparently there are more women too, but the New York Times just kind of never said anything about the other women that were supposedly supposed to come out. It was just that one person who also happens to be a Conservative Heritage Foundation staffer. So, make of that what you will. But yeah.
As for the thing about patches, I do want to just put out there, a patch is something you can just put on a uniform and then take off. A tattoo is a tattoo. I've met a lot of people and they got patches, and I'm like, that's an interesting patch. And it's it's got some old German symbolism, but then it's replaced all of the really edgy parts with Ukrainian symbolism, and it's trying to meld these aesthetics, and somebody buys it off of a patch wall, they put it on their arm, they're just oh, that looks cool. And you're you meet these types of people, and they do exist, and they speak to that. I've never met somebody who's gotten a tattoo and was I had zero clue what I was getting inked on my body, before.
Oh no,
or after.
he totally knew.
I did not know for the preceding 12 years at any point.
When cover-ups exist and tattoo removal exists,
and
exactly.
I don't believe it. And
there's no
we know
way that he didn't
Plattner's
know.
a liar. That's clear. But I mean,
Yeah.
like that's also politicians. They lie. So, you know, and also he's trying to get Susan Collins. Has she ever lied? And so I guess is that the standard we're holding up to this story? Like, we're already so deep in this shit. The question is it better for him to be a liar or is it better for him to be a Nazi? I think probably it's the former here, that he knew what it was or didn't, or found out later and did not care. Because when you read those Reddit discussions that he had, and I did, hearing him saying like, man, I really like that Azov's putting a hurting on him using IDF style tactics. Good stuff. You know, the type of stuff that when you go down there and you read it and you would have posted on Twitter today, oh my God, the firestorm it would create. But in those discussions where he's going back and forth and saying all this stuff, he seems to be defending the idea of using defeated armies' symbols from a conquered army. The idea of like, we defeated the Nazis so we can use their symbols. And this is kind of weird to think about, but it's actually in American military culture. The Apache helicopter. I mean, the Apache that's not proper native English, you know, that comes from tribes that we wiped off the map. Tomahawk missile is another example of this. And so maybe
but who weren't on the wrong side of history though.
That's true, but I don't know if the Marines care as much about whether or not the symbol carries X or Y meaning. I would put out there that I don't see a lot of Marines with hammer and sickle tattoos, though. And I don't see a lot of them like taking Soviet iconography and putting that on, even though it's probably one of America's greatest achievements in geopolitics.
It sounds like he's pre-explaining when we find his Confederate flag. That's what it sounds like.
Honestly, I really do think they're just being edgelords. And like, unfortunately, however you want to say about this, Nazi symbolism is more edgy than like the hammer and the sickle, because we just don't seem to view communism as bad as like Nazism. I mean, although it's not, like, obviously Nazism is worse than communism. Communism was still really fucking bad. You know, like the Soviet Union was really bad. They're like one rung down from badness from Nazism. So, but I don't know. I just think that like that seems to be, it makes sense to me, and it lines up with the rest of his Reddit comments. A lot of that stuff was just insanely edgy, and like there was probably like some sort of weird internal logic to it. But maybe he didn't want to get rid of the tattoo because he knew what it was, and he was like, "Hey, you know, this is a fond memory or whatever. Me and my buddies," and I don't know.
The worst.
I think it's stupid that he never thought to get rid of it. I don't know why he never thought.
The worst thing he said was, if I was going to fight in any war, it would be the Indian Wars. Really? Out of all of them. Out of all of our wars. Yeah. And he used the term Indian Wars, okay? That's what he said. You know, I'm just...
Did he say why? Because it would be easier? Because the technological mismatch? Or he just really wants to, like, scalp Indians? Like, he really likes Blood Meridian or something?
I think he really liked that one Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know what it was.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I mean, he seemed to like just really think that war was like, I guess, fun or interesting or cool or something, at least at that point in time.
He volunteered for Blackwater after the Blackwater scandal. Yeah, so that doesn't tell you something. Yeah. But that's the thing, is like, we could talk all this about his character and his judgment, and I'm going to agree with every fucking assessment, which is, well, not every assessment. I don't think he's a secret Nazi. He's just a fucking dipshit and has horrible judgment. But guess what? He's gonna be the candidate. Mills is not winning tomorrow. All right, it's not happening. I don't know. She literally dropped out of the race 2 months ago. I don't know why anyone's even saying it's gonna be anyone Plattner. So if it's gonna be in the general, and it's between him and Collins, who consistently votes for Trump's nominees, who says, you know what, he learned his lesson over and over and over again after January 6th. Yeah, I'm gonna get Plattner in there. Get the fucking dipshit idiot who got the Nazi tattoo. He's better than Collins. I'm sorry, it's just a better choice. So.
No, I agree. Obviously.
Yeah, lots of angles from which to attack Graham Plattner, but he is probably going to be the Dem nominee and vote blue no matter who, I guess. On the other side of that, though, is James Tallarico, who, I mean, is the spitting image of what you would want a candidate to look like in Texas, and he certainly has the Christian messaging down. He was recently accused of being formerly trans and or gay.
Or vegan.
or vegan. That might also
Not sure
be.
which one's worth.
Yeah, which one of
worse?
those do you think is going to take down James Tallarico?
In
and prevent
Texas,
him from
probably
being-
the veganism. That's really that's all.
That's why they're coming out with the barbecue oppo, where he's got to like eat as much meat as possible in the next few months.
By
So
the way,
that he's
you
not a man
cannot
out of
be a
nothing.
vegan and a homosexual man. Okay, that's not possible.
Because you eat.
Based.
Oh no!
Yes. Yes.
What if you're purely a top? Can you be a vegan and serve meat? I think you can. You're just kind of a hypocrite.
Hey, all the best chefs
regardless
are
of-
fat, so I don't agree.
Get to the real
fair.
issues on the marketplace of ideas.
Indeed.
True.
Well, whether his sexual proclivities and do in fact meet with his accusations, is that going to be enough to take him down a couple notches in Texas? I keep hearing about Republicans who are breaking from the party to support Tallarico because of the everything, but also Tallarico's Christian messaging, and also Ken Paxton's particularly scandal-plagued career. Maybe that might move things a bit more in Tallarico's favor. What do you think about Tallarico, Dylan?
Well, James Telfrico, which was one of the names they were running with, I mean, he's got the best shot Democrats have had in my lifetime of taking Texas, in my opinion. Beto O'Rourke made some like vital campaign missteps, obviously going out there and talking about gun banning in any way as a Texas Senate candidate. Kind of sunk him from the beginning. I mean, he did pretty well.
I'm going to take away your AR-15s.
Yeah, just a terrible idea. And he went out there and he did the best he could, and he was within 2 points. Now, under these conditions, where the national momentum is against Republicans, it is for Democrats, the issue which Trump got elected on, the economy, he is polling historically bad on. I mean, he's had 60-point swings when it comes to young voters on the economy. That type of swings in a 1-year time period is really not that heard of. And so right now, Trump's polling worse than Bush did on foreign policy at this time in his second term. Right. So I don't know about what you guys feel about the national momentum, but I think Democrats, irrespective of the redistricting, which isn't going to affect the Senate outcome in Texas, I think the momentum spells good things for Tallarico. I think Tallarico was better than Jasmine Crockett as an option. I like Jasmine Crockett.
Love her.
When I see her in committee, she seems good enough. But the question is who can win the election. And James Tallarico seemed to be the better candidate. He seemed to poll better, and it's really as simple as that. If she would have polled any better than James Tallarico, then I probably would have been in that McMurrow version of the whatever line she would have done of cymbals and drums as she goes to the party convention and accepts the nomination. Whatever it would have been. But at the end of the day, he's a devout Christian. He is somebody who is a former elected, so he shows he can win before. He can go into hostile media environments like the Joe Rogan podcast and leave having Joe Rogan said, "I like you. Why don't you run for president, James Tallarico?" is the type of things Joe Rogan is saying about this guy. And at the same time, he's running against a opponent who is... number one, has accused of corruption. Number two, accused of inappropriate behavior with women. Number three, not very witty. And number four, not very good to look at. And so all these things came together to just, I think, give Democrats a really good shot. Not to mention James Tallarico raising a lot of money, raising a good amount of money. And so the polling I see right now, it's like a close single digit rates between James Tallarico and Paxton. So I feel pretty good about James Tallarico. And I think that the more he talks about the economy and talks about taking the economy back for working people, whether or not that leans into populist messaging or not, good. Ken Paxton is going to lean into populist messaging. He's just going to lean into populist messaging on issues that people have heard about before. Bathrooms, school sports, and all that.
Immigration's causing the housing crisis.
Yeah. And now I think that might not be enough, though, because when you look at voters and you ask them what do they not want to hear more about, trans issues is literally number one of the things they don't want to hear any more about. And that's just, and when people hear that, they think, oh, that means they don't want to hear trans people continuing to talk about, how they're gonna make your kid trans through the new mass experiment or whatever they imagine. No, it's a lot of it's also Republicans just whining about trans people that most people don't even interact with in their daily lives.
I want to hear what Sophie's child has to say about all this.
Oh my gosh, probably quite a bit. Yeah, because especially when it comes to like, I feel like there's a lot of issues with how Tallarico came to be, especially in comparison to Jasmine Crockett, but that's neither here nor there. I just took so much issue personally with her being deemed, unelectable or less electable than the white dude, which, when she's also a devout Christian, when she's also, held office, when she's also done so much more, I'd say publicly, she's mummified, she's, big body, butch build, I feel like she had a lot of qualities that were not only at the same sort of level as Tallarico, but probably even better, as far as her ability to win this. And even with what SoyPill was saying, like, about how, like, we're kind of a shoo-in at this point, like Dems are going to win, Dems have such a good chance. Like, why not run somebody who, might push it a little bit, who yes, running a Black woman in Texas, it could be a challenge, but I think it's one that, you'd be closer to winning in this era, than in any other time in history, I think. So, also, we had a Black man president. So I feel like it's, all the things that we try to ascribe to someone's electability, just kind of pissed me off when it came to the whole Tallarico Crockett issue. But he's here. He's in. We're here. We're queer. We're not going anywhere. So, I'm happy to support him. I'm not like Hassan. I'm not gonna be like, oh, fuck him, just because he got in over the person that I wanted. I agree with you. I think that because he is that sort of ideal candidate, that yes, he does have a good shot at it, especially considering the close margins in the previous race, where we were so close to having a Democrat in office in Texas. But I was thinking about the whole Plattner thing, and it's funny because I feel like we don't really need certain things to know certain things. And so in the same way we didn't really need to see like Elon Musk's, Roman salute to know that he's a piece of shit, and he's very, much trying to advance the cause of the alt-right and white supremacy. It's one of those situations with Plattner where we didn't really need to see the tattoo to kind of know that he's this edgelord, like Kalinda's saying, kind of a piece of shit, kind of a dude. So I don't like him. I don't like what he stands for, but in the same way that I support Tallarico, because he's going to be, the person that we want to represent the Democrats. Like, I'm fully behind Plattner. I sure hope he gets it, because, he does have the highest chance of beating out Mills, but, he's most likely going to be the person to, be up against the Republicans. And so, yeah, I'm going to support him, but I'm not going to be surprised when, like Kalinda said, more things come out. I'm not going to be surprised when, he votes in ways that we, don't like. But I take heart for two reasons. One, I've been hearing a lot of parallels drawn between him and Fetterman. And so people are like, oh, what if he gets in but then I look at like the fact that Fetterman actually has voted with the Dems like 91% of the times. That's even more than some other like top Democrats. And so it's not like having somebody in that seat who is a Democrat but doesn't necessarily go our way all the time is such a bad thing. So even if we do see some of that backsliding or two-facedness. It might not be as bad as we think, because even the kind of case in point of that with Fetterman isn't as bad as we think. I think that's made out to be this really super bad thing in order for them, basically the right wingers, to try to latch on to that, to hopefully try to flip him even. And so that's one of those things where, I think we do better to not only look at Fetterman's actual record, but really support him, because we don't want to have to try to get 5 seats. Let's just try to get 4. So if we can do our best to kind of keep him happy, I think that would be a great move right now. That's actually our call to action in digital ground game right now. Let's talk to your senators, your Democratic senators, about supporting Fetterman. So even if we end up with Fetterman 2.0, it's probably not going to be as bad as we think. So, but I also take heart.
It's still 10 times better than a Republican, even a
exactly
Republican.
Fetterman is a betterman. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. But also, like, let's look at this. Like, this motherfucker has a Nazi tattoo. He's sexting women. He's having affairs. He's a piece of shit. And he's still going to be like the dude. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, not only is he doing this and he's still winning, Trump did that. He won. So I'm kind of like, that's the thing we have to do. Like, do what you have to do. Say what you have to say. Be who you need to be to get in that position of power. And as long as that position of power is still, largely beneficial to the Democratic Party, I genuinely don't see the problem with it. So I feel like, maybe this is a lesson for the Tallaricos, for, the Newsoms. They're going to come at you with all this shit, founded or not, or unfounded. And the fact that these very founded things are being thrown up to try to discredit these folks, rightfully, and they're still not making a dent. And like SoyPill said, they're actually getting these people more money. There's a lesson there. There's a lesson there. So in the same way that my friend was saying, yes, you care about trans people, no, you shouldn't, hinge your electability on that. Yeah, let's get these folks in, and then we'd have so much of a better chance to actually put legislation in place, not just EOs, that actually make a fucking difference for the people that we want to see advanced and helped. And I think that's how we actually move the party further left, way more than just handing the shit to the Republicans. So yeah, I take heart. I take heart in people like Plattner.
Yeah, well, imperfect as they are, they can still be, useful in bringing about a better system.
Well, do we know what Tallarico thinks about Ukraine? Dylan, do we know? I'm trying to look it up
he's
now.
He's pro-Ukraine. We ranked him green. He's pro-Ukraine. He speaks in favor of Ukraine. It's important to support them. He doesn't speak about it a lot because there's other big issues right now. But he's ranked green. He'd vote in favor of a major aid package from everything that I've seen.
Oh, okay. And that's in your track Ukraine system.
Yeah, we graded him. He's not in the search tool for legislators who voted on legislation, but we're integrating the posters soon, so even candidates will be integrated in that. But for now, he's just ranked green. We've ranked him green with like 4 or 5 bullet points.
How do we find more on the Track Ukraine stuff? Because that's so cool.
We have socials at Track Ukraine on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, and we have a website, trackukraine.com, where you can see not only a lot of our gradings, but there's also a search tool so people can look up their legislator and see how they voted on like legislation like the Support Ukraine Act, which just came through. And so obviously we can't grade everyone after every major piece of legislation, but the legislation can adjust. It can adjust the ranking system. So like all the legislation is like weighted in some way. So, you get 5 points here, 5 points there, and you can see a general grading depending upon how much aid they've supported, if they condemned the kidnapping of children or not. So we have that type of ranking for every legislator, and we engage with candidates all the time. Like we're engaged with a few campaigns.
Well, that takes us pretty nicely into the last segment of the official conversation as we look at the final 13 minutes we have with SoyPill, who has other obligations. I wanted to bring our attention to any candidates that you actually do like. We've talked a lot about candidates that have various baggages associated with them, but maybe it would be nice to finish the official conversation on a high note, talking about some candidates that you're enthusiastic about and maybe don't have quite as much dragging them down. Before we get into that, if you've been enjoying this conversation, we are the marketplace of ideas. We try and focus on the good faith and good fun to be found in the political space in YouTube. If you've enjoyed it, please check us out at the marketplace of ideas on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel there that you can like this video, maybe give us a sub if you're feeling generous. And we've also got a Discord server. Now, for anybody on the panel who wants to stick around after we stop the official conversation, we'll be opening things up for call-ins. We'll also be playing a game. So check out our Discord link in the YouTube video if you want to join us for that. With that said, SoyPill, who's a candidate that you are enthusiastic about, either in the midterms or perhaps maybe even for the presidency? Your choice.
Oh man, I mean, for the midterms, I think Tallarico is, like the model, like, hey, all right, this is like, perfect. Like, all right, you're not going to get damaged by the baggage of bigotry, which is not a good thing that I like, but it happens, unfortunately. You've got the synthesis of like the homebody kind of religious, but like not too religious. And like, I just think everyone needs to get along sort of thing. And he's got good messaging. But for the fucking presidency, man, I don't know. Like everything is so far out and so much could come up. Like, I like Ro Khanna's policies. I don't know how he would fare on a national stage, just like speaking wise. I like a lot of what Gavin Newsom does. I don't like some of the stuff he did in California, but like, I think he's probably got a really good chance. So it's hard for me to say now for the presidency. For the midterms, I think Tallarico is like picture perfect. But like, honestly, I don't fucking care. I don't care about a model candidate. I just care about getting Republicans out of power now, and then we can think about getting more model candidates in after that. So.
Sophie, I'm curious, who do you have as an ideal candidate in your perspective?
Roy Cooper. I'm from North Carolina. I think he has a real chance of becoming at least one of our Democratic senators. And so really hoping he can take it. I'm also like fully supportive of Tallarico. I'm fully supportive of Plattner. Like, I absolutely hope that they get in and kill it for the aforementioned reasons. I'd say as far as for president, that's a tough one. I gotta go with Newsom. Like, I genuinely think that he's got the best anti-right-wing messaging that can really, again, give us that the language, the voice that we need to harness, and that energy, like SoyPill was saying, like we have to be at that same level of, rage and outrage that is warranted right now. We are facing a fascist government and takeover. I hate to say it, but I genuinely hope nothing goes down with the midterms. My biggest fear is that Trump pulls some bullshit and, absolutely interrupts, our free and fair elections for real. And so that's one of those things where I think that, Newsom's one of the few people kind of bringing the heat, bringing the pain, and actually not only ridiculing him, but also having the appropriate level of anger and rage that we need to exhibit right now.
Okay. We got Roy Cooper added to the list of ideal candidates along with James Tallarico. And for president, it seems like so far we've had two answers for Newsom with a nod to Khanna.
You know what? Oh, Kamala Harris. I'm so sorry. Okay. Fuck all of that. Kamala Harris. She should run again. She was the fucking perfect candidate. Maybe we'll see it this time.
Sure. We'll add Kamala to the list. Kalinda, who do you have as an ideal candidate?
Well, all right. I like Tallarico quite a bit from what I have seen, although there are issues that I have with him. But I don't know. Democrats, unfortunately, aren't seem as on board, perhaps, as I have come around to being very much in favor of funding the military. Lockheed liberalism is based and awesome. And I think that probably that needs to happen more. On that note, I would say that, but one of the things that I like about Tallarico, though, is I think he does a really good job of responding to attacks against him. Like, he owned up to the fact that previous like wokey comments that he made were cringe, and like he has like, I think, really good defenses of things like him talking about how God was non-binary or whatever, and he'll hit back with like a good sort of religious oriented statement about that, and how like he probably wouldn't use like words like that, but like there's something true about the core of what he was saying, which is obviously, you know, that man cannot know God like in that way, or that God doesn't necessarily have a particular gender or whatever. And I think that that stuff has been really good, and he's also done a great job of like attacking Ken Paxton, who is probably a nightmare of a candidate. I think that might be another case of Donald Trump endorses a really bad candidate because he was mad at the previous candidate who probably could have won, because he cares more about screwing over people who have wronged him than he does about like actually winning. And every time he paid, like, so many of his crazy, he just seems really bad at choosing candidates. So as far as like actual like, or like the presidential thingy, I think Newsom's pretty great. Yeah, either him or Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly's really great too. Not only did he do that really cool video with the whole it's okay to disobey, or like you should disobey an illegal order thing. I think, yeah, he's got like the right level of, I think he understands stuff about the importance of like rebuilding America's military industrial base, which would create jobs and stuff. And overall, like, he seems like a cool candidate. But yeah, otherwise him or Newsom. Newsom's also a fighter too, and I've enjoyed the hilarious posts from the Gavin Newsom press office on Twitter, and the fact that he stepped up and did all that stuff with the redistricting thing, because he actually did want to fight back.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we'll add Mark Kelly to the list of presidential candidates to look out for in the future. Another shout out to our Mr. Tallarico. Dylan, who do you have as a candidate that you think is ideal from your perspective?
Sure, I'll do with the midterms first and then go for presidential. Adam in New York's 12th was somebody who recently won their primary. They're now going to be the general election candidate for the Democrats. They were a doctor in Gaza. They did a lot of good work. I asked them about Ukraine. They got a good position on Ukraine when I asked them during the PV AMA. And they said they support a defense package. So I appreciate their values on that. I appreciate their support on that. And so I'd like to see progressives taking a strong stance on that when asked. I like Raphael Warnock just generally as a candidate. I just wanted to bring that generally up. I just think everything about him, from his image to the way he speaks, from the fact that having pastors in politics from the Democratic side is just, like, I think generally beneficial, especially since the Black church has always been such a strong base for the Democratic Party. I come from gorgeous Prince George's, so I have to shout out the Black church. I also want to talk about Josh Torek in Iowa, who I think has a better chance of winning the Senate race than a lot of people give him credit for. I still think the odds are against him, but the idea of a blue Democrat senator from Iowa would have been considered ridiculous just 8 years ago, considering the, you know, how the election results were coming then. But right now, I mean, the last poll I saw, they're within a point of each other. So, I mean, if you believe the polls carry any weight, that is of some significance. Also, the odds in Alaska. Not only because of the Republican, candidate having this switcheroo around the name in the Republican primary, and whether that was Democrat tomfoolery or not, doesn't seem to matter really all that much. But what does matter is whether or not Democrats actually win the election, and I think that they have a decent chance in Alaska as well. As for presidential candidates, Governor Wes Moore. Of course, I'm a Marylander, and I want our first Marylander president. But I also think that, considering the amount of state budgetary restraints that he's under, I mean, there's other people that would be worse. I would probably prefer Chris Van Hollen as both my personal senator and, again, another Marylander. We need a Marylander as president. That's my main issue, my number one issue. But besides that, and I mean this unironically, I mean, why don't we run Hunter Biden? I mean, like, right now, when I see him out there and how he's speaking, like, you're not going to find dirt on Hunter Biden that's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe
new
this.
dirt.
Like they've
The new
already,
Biden dirt.
they have dug through
True.
every inch of his life. They have taken everything out. They aired out all the dirty laundry, and he's out
Every
there.
inch, Dylan.
And
Yes.
people out there, they're saying like, "Oh, well, you're a meth head." He's like, "No, bitch, I'm a crackhead." He's like, and it's beautiful. And right now, honestly, like the Biden
And
family,
nowhere in the Epstein files.
nowhere
He's
in the
nowhere in the
Epstein
Epstein
files. He liked his women of age. That's definitely something that all of the reports seem to
Big
indicate.
asses. Yes.
Yeah, you know, like his penis is already out there on the interwebs. You see everything about him is already publicly listed. He pulls not too bad, actually. In the head-to-head matchups with certain Republican candidates, I'd like to honor. This is a genuine request. Pollsters should spend time polling Hunter Biden for president in 2028. I called for this like years ago. I remember like when Channel 5 like ran around my neighborhood, they asked me, "What do you think?" I think Hunter needs to run to set the country straight. I said it a little bit as a joke, but you know, honestly, I'm manifesting it a little bit. Now, if Hunter Biden is the nominee, okay, as the main proponent of the Hunter Biden should run election committee, I think his VP pick should either be Mark Kelly or Raphael Warnock. They would add a level of seriousness to his figure that doesn't currently exist, that I think could actually get him over the line against potential President J.D. Vance. I think that ticket, this is my genuine opinion, would beat J.D. Vance in a matchup in 2028.
Hear me out.
I am here
Michelle
for it.
Obama VP. Okay, we run Biden
would
Obama
never.
again.
Obama again.
In
She would
reverse.
never.
Oh,
Oh my God. Will Malia or Sasha be old enough?
I just want to say, like, listen, I know that like that was at least maybe partially a meme. I think
I don't know.
I think that Hunter
Kalinda.
could probably do pretty well if he like, I don't know, ran for like the
I'm
House
for
or
it.
something, or started,
he can take
you
a
know,
seat
like
somewhere.
maybe
Yeah.
I followed in
Maybe
his
don't
dad's
throw the
footsteps,
presidency on
had
his
a
back.
bit of a career before he jumped in. But then again, who
Got name
knows?
recognition right now.
Yeah, I know he
Right.
does, but a lot of people think that I don't know whether or not like somebody could come along and replicate what Trump did for the Democrats, because we're not exactly the same as the Republicans in terms of like as a group of people and the kind of things that
Plattner's
we
doing it
value,
right now.
right?
Pretty much, yeah, to a degree.
Didn't Plattner have some level of does Plattner have like no local political experience though? I thought that he did some stuff in local politics.
I don't know of anything. I know that he farmed
Yeah.
oysters.
Yeah, he
You know
seems
what?
to be a newcomer.
We are at 4:00 now, so I wanted to give SoyPill a chance to get any last thoughts, final words out before we let him head off to Wick TV, which everybody should tune in for later.
By the way, SoyPill, if you want to debate me about the military-industrial complex and me being a warmonger, hit me up because I'd be happy to.
Debate you about it? What would they?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that you don't agree with what I said. Listen, people
Oh, I
like
think
you have
Lockheed
said
liberalism
things.
is super cringe. Yeah. But you know, good for you if you make it work. And you already overlap with some of my positions that I'm not gonna like fucking terrible. This is not the time to be like debating the minutia whether or not we give another military contract to Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Like whatever. Like I don't like it, but like that's we'll fight about this in 5 years. Okay. You know, when we win, then we can fight about it.
Well, that was a
All right,
nice, quick-spirited debate. That was great. That was wonderful. We knocked that out. There's at the end here. Beautiful. Yeah, Soy, thanks so much for joining us. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm the SoyPill. I just have a new video out. Go check it out. And I stream sometimes. SoyPill, at the beginning.
Good luck.
Bill, the.
Good luck on the way
Yeah,
channel.
great
That'll
video.
be a fun
A lot of fun in that
watch.
video.
Beautiful.
All right.
All right,
Let's
thanks so
check
much for
this out.
joining us.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Love you.
Yep. All right. Well, and to the rest of you, thanks as well for hanging out with us. Does anybody need to jet out, or are you going to stick around for a quick game? And if anybody wants to call in, maybe chat with some callers.
I might need to actually. I probably should go because I promised a friend that I would play video games with them.
No worries.
Yeah,
Dig it.
but I just want to say though, Dylan, you're awesome. I really admire what you do.
Second.
And the fact
Thank
that you
you.
went to Ukraine. I think that is pretty amazing. I maybe one day I too will go to Ukraine. That would be really interesting to do. It seems like a beautiful country.
Come here. It's a beautiful country.
But yeah, Anyway, yeah, so I'm Kalinda. I'm a liberal. I cover geopolitics. I talk about Israel-Palestine sometimes, but mostly I talk about Russia and Ukraine a lot because I don't think there's not really necessarily enough people doing it. And I've got Ukrainians in my audience. I've also got I've got like a Russian in my audience too, an anti-Putin Russian who will come on and talk about various things related to like Russian society, what it's like to live in Moscow right now, or things like that. I had a not great debate with Lactoid about Ukraine after I spent like 3 months doing a shitload of research on it. And I'm hopefully going to try again in the future and do much better. But yeah, I do debates and stuff. You can find me on YouTube at DylanBurnsLIVE, KALINDA. I stream in the morning, which maybe might be good if anybody's audiences have any like Europeans in them. Because I'm sure that not everybody can all stay up and watch Dylan. Dylan, it actually amazes me. I don't know how you get any sleep anytime ever. Like you're up until like, what is it, like 2 o'clock in the morning in Ukraine, so you can stream at your normal time here in North America.
Oh, I'm up till like a lot of times 6 or 7 a.m. and then I go to sleep.
Yeah, Jesus, what time is it there right now?
Right now it's 2:03 a.m.
I thought you were.
How the hell do you?
When I booked this for you?
He's in his bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the studio
His
bunker.
I don't know how you even like what do you when you're done like at like 6 or 7 a.m. or whatever, do you just like go to sleep and then wake up at noon and then go do shit, or like that's just crazy?
Yeah, that's usually how it works. I mean, you know, there's a lot you can get done between noon and like 8-9 p.m. before everybody's locked out.
True, that is true. Well, rip your sleep schedule, but still, it's really cool that you're doing all that stuff. And yeah, anyway, it must be incredibly scary, by the way, going to like the I can't even say it, or the Konstantinivka axis, because I know you went there recently.
Yeah, I was
like
on the Konstantinivka. I was in Druskivka, but it's the Konstantinivka axis I was working on there for like a week and a half. It's you know, it's plenty to work on, plenty to film.
Do you think they're going to take it?
Konstantinivka or Druskivka? Konstantinivka, I think it's probably they'll eventually take it. It's just going to be very painful for them. As for Druskivka, I mean, it's like every inch costs them like a whole lot. So it's a question of like whether or not they can expend all that, or where they're going to get the men.
512 got a tier 2 subscription.
Yeah, hopefully Putin runs out of steam, or Russians get annoyed enough and he stops. But
or life.
I don't know.
Hopefully he runs out of life. I'm sorry. What?
Anyhow, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. TikTok shop. TikTok.
Well,
anyhow,
yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Absolutely,
Thanks very much.
Appreciated you joining us, Kalinda.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Kalinda.
Bye-bye, Kalinda.
Bye.